This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, it's been a massive week this week. So our weekend show is really a change of pace, isn't it? Because it gets, I don't know whether it's a change of pace for a more relaxing pace, because it's actually quite competitive. We're each nominating what we think is the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable story, the sleeper story, which is one that's kind of flying under the radar perhaps, or going to be a bigger story further down the track, and our favourite story. So we've got 4 different categories, each of us nominating a story, and then we have a judge to decide a winner, and that judge every week is our fearless Fear and Greed colleague, Adam Lang. Adam, good morning.
Good morning, Michael.
Our fearless, our greedless, our Adamless Lang.
Our Adamless Lang, did you say?
Yeah, Adamless Lang.
I quite enjoy that.
And Adam's nickname at some point in his life was Adamski.
Mm.
And I've always think there's like a cracking nickname for Adam, Adamski.
Slightly incongruous, isn't it?
Yeah, slightly incongruous. That's exactly right.
Shall we jump straight in today?
Let's jump straight into it.
Because I've picked some absolutely cracking stories this week. I'm coming into this with a lot of confidence this week.
Righto.
But
Good.
I'm going to let you go first, Sean. What's the biggest story for you?
Okay, so if you're going to let me go first, that's very generous because there is only one big story this week. And so, in fact, I'm going to take the biggest story. I'm going to take the point, but I'm going to do it really quickly because I'd love to hear what Michael's biggest story is because I'm going the economy.
Oh,
No, hey, you let me go first.
No backsies?
No backsies. So, economy, we found out this week, grew at 2.3% in the 12 months to March, slower than expected. The Reserve Bank lifted the cash rate to 4.1%, the highest since 2012. More rate rises in the offing. There's stories of mortgage arrears increasing. Peter King from Westpac said the bank's receiving more calls to its helpline. Where are we up to? Well, rates may still rise in an effort to get inflation lower. And that might be 1, 2, or maybe even 3 more rate rises. There's a real risk that the economy could go into recession. Recession. Imagine that. It'd be mild, but a recession nonetheless. It's likely that the country will go into a per capita recession, so output judged per person. There'll be lots of job losses in coming quarters, so of course the starting point's pretty good. It's going to be a really tough 2023, and this week we found out just how tough it's going to be. I could go on, but given I'm very confident this story is going to win, I'm just hanging to hear what Michael's competition is. Michael?
That's that's a tough story to beat, Sean.
but you'll have a go at it. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Of course, it's going to be a tough one for me to win. I'm going to say that right now, but that's not me giving up. That's me just acknowledging the size of the challenge ahead of me. So I don't know whether I was trying to crack my knuckles into the microphone, but it didn't really
work.
Didn't really work. So anyway,
Come on, Rocky, let's go.
Adam.
Yes.
I feel like I'm going to have to paint a bit of a picture for you with my story. The year, Adam, is 1997.
Okay.
IBM's Deep Blue has just beaten chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov. Bookshops are starting to see an odd little book called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and they're wondering if anyone's going to buy it. Titanic, about to dock in cinemas, and the music charts. The music charts dominated by that deep, moving anthem, Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. And of course, the other big event that year, the defining feature of 1997.
Yes.
The release of the Wallace Inquiry that set out major changes in the regulation of Australia's financial systems. Now, fast forward to 2023, more than a quarter of a century later, to this very week, the week that we are in right now, and we have seen the most significant reforms to the regulations of payments in 26 years.
And the crowd goes wild.
I think the crowd is still stunned, Sean. Treasurer Jim Chalmers will give the Reserve Bank more power to regulate companies operating in this space, recognising, of course, that payments providers go well beyond banks. We are talking about the biggest companies in the world here, operators like Apple and Google, all the way through to the buy now, pay later players like Afterpay.
Dun, 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 dun.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate the fact that you understand just how big this is. It is big news. It is important news because 55 million payments worth about $650 billion are processed in Australia every single day. And the regulations that have been governing these payments that are part of our everyday lives are completely out of date. They are archaic. Not anymore. Because these changes are going to give the Reserve Bank power to govern all of that and to regulate the regulators. It is a big story. It is one that's affecting every single one of us. Anyone who pays bills online, anyone who uses buy now, pay later, anyone who taps their phone to pay for their groceries at the shops, which we found out this week has exploded, mind you. Transactions using cards on smartphones has risen from, 700 million or so in 2018 to more than 93 billion in 2022. So you can see why this story matters. It is, I know it's a little bit kind of left field, but it is the biggest story of the week. And as far as payments are concerned, it is the biggest story since tub thumping back in 1997.
Oh, that was worth it. That was brilliant.
So the criteria: topicality, timeliness, economic impact, my subjective bias, and of course we've had in recent times drama or melodrama.
Oh, I forgot that one.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about adding in melody and brevity. We'll see how we go in future weeks. Michael, actually on the melody and drama, you had wonderful. I was picturing you in a Roman toga on top of a mountain telling the great story. But Sean has to win this one for Story of the Week in his God of Doom biggest story of the week. Economics has to win in terms of the risk. I think the risk measure changed and it just got more pronounced toward recession and slowing down and people being concerned. And I think that the balance of all of those factors, slower growth, higher interest rates, again, inflation still too high, risk of recession going greater, I think that is the biggest story of the week.
That's fair. But as I say.
But no, that was worth it, Michael. That was seriously worth it.
You.
Tub thumping by Chumbawamba, Harry Potter, The Wallace Inquiry.
Titanic. All of these things. All of these big events.
Never seen Titanic.
Really?
No. Just hasn't made it onto the priority list.
After I got criticised via email from a listener for admitting last week that I hadn't seen Lord of the Rings.
Nor read.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter.
You know, wasn't it? I'm just throwing something in here. Wasn't that the year Lady Di?
Yes, it was.
Was in the accident?
It was.
Yeah. Well done, Sean.
Yes, but
because
I mean,
the Elton John song "Candle in the Wind" was the big hit. Tub thumping, I'm sure, was up there too.
It actually was, yeah. But I also didn't want to bring the tone, the mood down too much.
Right.
We left that till now.
Yeah, no, I was kind of picking the stories quite selectively, because I mean, obviously, Titanic is such an uplifting story.
Yeah, that's right. Have we got like a whole show of that sort of stuff? Because I'm really happy just to rush through my answers. If we can get more of that.
That was me acknowledging that I had a feeling I was going to be beaten on the biggest story because the biggest story this week was the economy. So I thought I'm going to have to give it a little something extra.
Michael, can I give you a special mention at this point?
Yes, please.
I'm considering bonus points. I'm going to park it for the moment for two reasons. One, you didn't make it about politics.
Yeah, excellent.
And two, it wasn't a complete grab bag of stories. It was like you really did nail a story on payment system.
Hold on. So for following the rules, he's going to get a bonus payment. Oh, that's
well, perhaps an encouragement for the first time.
Yeah, an encouragement award. Okay, let's move on to the most remarkable story, but I think you should get the opportunity to go first here, Michael.
Yeah, and I suppose it's 1-0 at the moment. So just checking the scores. As the old saying goes, I get knocked down, but I get up again. All right, on to the most remarkable. And I think this is it's just a remarkable story. It's a neat story, this one. Again, no grab bag here, just one single story, and it's short. More new cars were sold in Australia last month than ever before. Keep in mind, obviously, as Sean was rabbiting on about in the first story, this is at a time when inflation is high and interest rates are rising, confidence is waning, but we still keep buying cars more than ever before. I could stop right now and let that simple fact stand as the most remarkable story of the week. But you both know that I'm not going to do that.
There's always hope.
Just momentarily is very exciting.
But hypothetically, if I was to stop now,
yep.
Adam, have I done enough to kind of get some points? Because it's just
high risk move. We don't know Sean's story yet.
Why don't we actually just stop now and see what happens when the judge comes in?
But I've got more good points.
Oh, go on.
No, okay. No. Okay, one sentence
Bring it,
then.
Thompson. Come on, Michael.
Nearly 500,000 cars sold in just 5 months. We are addicted to buying new cars. We've got global production ramping up again after the COVID-era supply chain issues. We are getting our fix now for our addiction. This jump in all buyer market segments, private, business, government, and rental. These figures are just remarkable considering the state of the economy. That'll do me. I've got more, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it.
More in the tank.
Yep. Thank you. Well done, Adam.
Thanks.
Well, you deserve a bonus point for that one. Take it away, Sean.
I just don't know what to say about that particular story.
Say you win.
Forfeit.
It's called concession.
Oh, never.
Look, I'm actually going to talk about something that really matters to the world. Well, some of us anyway. Aussie farmers. Now, Adam, you wouldn't have a clue what a farmer does. Michael, you were a townie, weren't you? Me though. I grew
Man
up.
of the land?
I was a townie too, actually. No.
Yeah.
I once was asked to help shear a sheep. Oh my God, scared the bejeebers out of me. I wasn't going anywhere near it.
It's not easy.
Oh, no, it's remarkable. Anyway, what's remarkable? Aussie farmers and the run that they've had in the past few years. But alas, it's coming to an end, and we found that out this week. Still pretty good though. So help me with the pronunciation here, Michael.
Nino
without the Y, spelt without the Y, but pronounced El Nino, which means
little boy.
Little boy. So that's where much of the continent will experience dry conditions. We're running into an El Nino period. That's set to cut wheat production by about a third, which means farm exports will drop by about 17% to $65 billion next year. That will still be the sixth biggest winter crop ever. And it is just quite remarkable. The last 2 years have been, I think it was second and third biggest crops ever, and the sixth biggest crop. What a great time the farmers been having. That's according to the aptly named Australian Bureau of Agricultural and Resource Economics and Sciences, otherwise known as ABARES. So over the past 3 years, the La Nina phenomenon has boosted crops, and even this forecast drop still means that we will be selling much more than normal. About 60% of the winter crop is wheat, 22% is barley, 11% canola. We've also got fertilizer prices falling. Just been a remarkable run for farmers. That is a remarkable story. And Australia, what's the saying? Something off the sheep's back? I can't remember. Irrelevant now because we just mine stuff and send it overseas. But we grew up off the sheep's back or something or other.
You really nailed that one there, Sean.
Yeah.
Strong close.
Do I get points for flourish? Surely.
Okay, so Aussie farmers have had a couple of amazing seasons, and that, of course, follows behind that some awful times. And so it's been wonderful to see that get much, much better. The fact that it's less good in the season this year is significant, but I don't know that it's as remarkable as Michael's stats on cars. So for me...
What, a couple of ships turning up?
But Sean, I don't know. I think you may miss the point I made where it says the biggest of all time ever, the most ever, and you quoted in your story the second biggest season and the third biggest season and the sixth biggest season. None of those were the single biggest season, whereas mine was. So I just think, just based on the numbers alone, and we know Adam appreciates numbers, if you were to put that in a spreadsheet and order them, my story would be at the top. So therefore, 1-all.
How quickly did Michael take over there?
I'm not going to even argue that now. The economic impact of a couple of ships turning up versus massive income for the country.
Well, more in my mind was the economic impact of people putting the orders in for that number of cars.
That wasn't this week, though.
Yeah, well, I planted the crops last year too, Sean, so I don't think we should really say that it has to have been this week.
Oh, rules have changed. Interesting.
Look, you know what?
Let's go to a break.
It's 1-all. I think we can just go. That was a good first half. Let's just accept that and take a moment, settle ourselves, have a cup of tea, and come back and do the sleeper story.
Listen to Chumbawamba.
Yeah, let's get our tub thumping on. We'll be back in a moment. All right, we are looking for the sleeper story now. So this is a story that is either flying under the radar, perhaps, or going to become a bigger story further down the track, or perhaps both in some cases. Sean, if there's have you been able to pick out a story that's not getting much attention anywhere in the world? Go for it.
Oh, nice lead in. Very nice lead in.
What have you chosen, Sean?
So my sleeper story at the moment for we Australians is what's happening in the global economy. We are so caught up in interest rates and growth figures locally and all that hoo-ha. We haven't been looking at the rest of the world. And as we all know, what happens overseas matters. And here in Australia, Phil Lowe keeps telling us from the Reserve Bank, in the US, the best forecast recession ever is yet to arrive, and Wall Street's actually trading close to 12-month highs.
I reckon no one knows about this.
There's just, not in Australia they don't, not you anyway. This is all news to you, let's be honest. There's just more confidence about the world's largest economy than there has been for quite some while. European economies are doing pretty well. In fact, the Euro Stoxx 50, which measures the biggest 50 companies in the world, is also close to record territory. Did you know that? Adam, did you know that? But the real sleeper is Japan. Japan, where's that? Yes, that country up north. It's been stagnant for decades, and it's suddenly showing signs of life. This week, Japan's Nikkei hit a new multi-decade high. It's up about 23% this year compared to the local markets, up just 3%. Helping along the way, of course, was Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway investing in the big 5 of the big conglomerates in Japan, Mitsui, Sumitomo, Mitsubishi. They've got things, real estate, tech, healthcare, retail, etc. Now, Buffett reckons that Japanese companies were undervalued, and given the inflationary environment, things will get better. Thing is, we've been a bit myopic here in Australia. We haven't been awake to the fact that the rest of the world is actually showing some really positive signs. And what you will find is Australia kind of is about 6 months behind the US, or has been throughout the whole COVID period. And so maybe that, 6 months ago, we were very worried about the global recession. That hasn't actually hit the globe yet, though it still may, but it just hasn't happened yet. Maybe that's what's going to happen in Australia. Fascinating stuff. No one knows about it, though. Absolutely no one.
It's a big story to squeeze under a radar, isn't it?
It certainly is. Michael, what's your sleeper story?
Well, Sean, I know you're going to criticize me from the moment I start this, so I need to kind of get a little disclaimer in here. We have talked
your sleeper story, yes?
Yeah, it's one that we've talked about greenwashing in the past, and I know that Sean, you and I have both used it as our sleeper stories previously. I did it first, and you copied me about a month later. This story is not about greenwashing. This is about the other emerging trend in the ESG space. I wanted to get that out early so that you didn't go, I've already done greenwashing. I know we've already done greenwashing. This is the other trend. and it's a term we're only just starting to hear about now. Green hushing. Isn't that cool? Green hushing. I mean, it's not it's not cool, but it's a thing. And this week, we had ASIC boss Joe Longo issuing a warning about green hushing, which is well, greenwashing is when obviously companies are overstating their green credentials, or really kind of they're not being able to back up kind of what they're saying. Green hushing is almost the opposite. Companies not saying anything about their green credentials in, as Mr. Longo put it, an attempt to garner a green halo effect without having to do the work. So greenwashing is old news, really. Now it's about companies saying they have a strong ESG policy but can't talk about it because they're too frightened of being accused of greenwashing. So I just find this whole thing fascinating. And if you need any further proof that this is a big sleeper story, another comment from Joe Longo. He said that climate disclosures of this nature are only the beginning of the changes coming to ESG. And he said, this is the biggest change in the financial services sector in a generation, and we need to be prepared for that change as it unfolds. Sounds like it's set to be, to me, sounds like it's set to be an even bigger story later, which is the definition of a sleeper story.
Can I just ask a question? How long is a generation?
Look, I would say it's 25 years. So, I mean, it's the next biggest story since tub thumping.
So that's where I'm going here. So this is the biggest story in the last generation, or this generation. Mm-hmm. I think previously the financial payment services, whatever that one was about, was a bigger story than generation. Mm-hmm. I think you're getting a bit mixed up here.
No. He said that this is unfolding now. So, I mean, the payments one is the biggest one for the last 25 years. Then the greenwashing one is for the next 25 years. So really, we've got half a century covered in just my stories.
Yeah, please, Adam, jump in.
Sean wins.
Okay.
I just think that green hushing is like a subcategory of greenwashing. It all to me comes under the same, whether it's.
But it's not. It's the opposite.
It's just by omission rather than being explicit about it. So, the truth, whether you're telling a lie or just absenting the truth, they're kind of in the same area, and I don't see this as remarkably distinguishable. So I think it's serious. I think it's a really good story, but I think on this one, I knew all those facts that Sean pointed out. Global economy, the S&P, how well that's been trading, the stocks index, Japan. Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this Japan? Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but isn't this now recovering to levels in 1990? So for that long, Japan's been crawling into and back out of recession. And so this is like remarkable for Japan, and it's still one of the biggest economies in the world.
Maybe it was in the wrong category then. I was criticised last week for putting a story in the wrong category when it was not a sleeper story at all, and it should have been remarkable. I agree that is remarkable, but we're talking about an entire global economy and one of the biggest economies in the world being a sleeper story. Hello,
Michael. May I finish?
Yes. Sorry, go on.
So the fact that all those international economies may help drag us away from recession, I think that is an excellent possibility and a great sleeper story. So well done, Sean.
Thank you very much.
All righty. This is a good competition, 2-1. And it wouldn't be a contest without a very dodgy decision from a judge. Which is not this one, obviously. I'm just saying, no, 2-1, it's all good.
How well he takes defeat.
I'm happy with defeat.
Really?
I'm not happy with injustice. Shall we go for the favourite story of the week? Shall I go first on this one?
You go first this time.
Look, I feel like it's been a bit melodramatic today. I feel like it's been a little bit over the top. And for all of those kinds of antics, I'm actually I'm a simple person with simple tastes. And occasionally, I find myself longing for a bygone era when checks were the go-to method of payment. And it seems, unfortunately, tragically perhaps, that any chance of returning to that era is almost gone, with the checkbook being read its last rites this week. The government has announced that it's going to transition all transactions to digital by 2028, with a total end to the use of cheques planned for 2030. It had to happen. Just a 0.25% of transactions are carried out with cheques these days, and even that seems a bit kind of high. We had Treasurer Jim Chalmers this week talking about Australia needing payment systems that are modern, world-class, efficient, safe, trusted, accessible, enabling greater competition, innovation, productivity, all words that can't be used to describe a cheque. So this story, it's a simple one. It's my favorite because of the nostalgia, and I'm sure that Sean's story is going to be very flashy and very exciting. But mine's a lot more humble. It's just affecting real people here in Australia, and for that reason, Adam, I'm sure it's your favorite as well. Sean.
Well, it's fair to say that mine is a lot more exciting than your story. No doubt about it. Because mine... No. More exciting than the humble check, alas. Mine is the absolute opposite end of the spectrum. My favourite story this week has been all about Saudi Arabia's spending on sport, more specifically, Saudi Arabia's sovereign fund, which is funded by all that oil, what they're doing in sport. So this week we found out that the Saudi-backed Live Golf Tour, which is ludicrously wealthy, it's agreed to merge with the US PGA and European tours that unifies professional golf around the world after about a year of a massive split. Some players, like Australia's Cameron Smith, joined the Rebel Live Tour. Others stayed with the PGA Tour. Now they've come together. Now, the two sides absolutely hated each other, but they did this deal, which no one saw coming, at least not quickly. They'll merge into a single for-profit entity. So the Live players who are suspended by the PGA Tours will be allowed back. Interestingly, there's lots of angst among the golfers themselves. A guy called Rory McIlroy, who's from Northern Ireland, he seems to be kind of the person in between because he was very vocal against the Live Tour and stayed with the PGA, and suddenly he's been left hung up to dry. So there was that. Then we also had the reports this week that Lionel Messi, arguably the greatest footballer of his generation, turning down a $600 million a year offer to play in the Saudi Arabian League, again, funded by the sovereign fund of Saudi Arabia. Instead, he's going to move to the US to play for Inter Miami. Now, the Saudis already have the other great footballer of the generation, Cristiano Ronaldo. He's on about $300 million a year. Probably the third best player of the generation is a guy called Karim Benzema, who the Ballon d'Or winner this year, which is kind of the best footballer of the year award. Guess where he's playing? The Saudi League. I just think it's phenomenal how much Saudi Arabia is throwing at sport, primarily to improve their standing in the world. I think that's what it is anyway, because they're not going to get a return from it. They have plenty of money, but obviously they want to become more of a geopolitical player or something like that. Just remarkable stories, and my favourite for the week, Adam.
Oh, these are great. And both kind of emblems of leaving the past behind. Sean, your story with so many elements in it. The acrimony between Live and PGA, that they are all saying, yeah, we're all okay now. We're all going to get together and be one big happy family. Behind the scenes, there's going to be blood on the floor. There is so much to clean up about that, and it's a huge deal. So that's spectacular. Football, I mean, if you consider international football in the last 30 years, the size of that international business has been exploding. And so to see all these players moving around internationally is, to me, spectacular. And the way that Apple and Adidas have got behind this deal to bring Messi to Inter Miami, that is just so incredible. And so I'm really blown away by the business story there of how that sport is evolving. And against Michael's story of checks being now left behind. You know, obviously to make progress, some things have just got to go. So I think, Michael, it's a great story, but for favourite, I have to go with Sean on this one. The size of these explosive deals in golf and football is enormous.
It doesn't really affect anyone though, does it? So hang on. Is that 3-1?
Yes. It is
Oh,
3-1.
It's like a good football score, isn't it? And shout out to Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Tottenham.
Yeah.
What a great achievement from him.
It'll change football in Australia and Asia to have such a high-profile manager. Wonderful news.
Absolutely brilliant.
can we get the points, please, Adam?
You can.
Sorry to keep everyone kind of focused here.
3 stories to 1. Sean wins on 94 points. Michael, 89 points.
Oh,
It's a little bit of clear air there.
that's a bit disappointing. Did I end up getting the bonus points from story 1? Or did I lose them from my tantrum in story 3?
Ended up about even, yeah.
Probably makes sense. All right, that's okay. 3-1. Congratulations, Sean. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Michael.
And thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
Make sure you're following the podcast and join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm Michael Thompson. Have a great weekend.